Hey guys, I'm a 38-year-old South Asian American. I grew up in Parsippany, New Jersey, a big family, super traditional vibes, be a doctor kind of scene at home. I felt a lot of pressure due to the immense amount of expectations put on me by the South Asian American society. I spent my youth and my young adult life trying to tick everyone else's boxes. So I tried, I really did, but I knew I wasn't meant for a white coat. I didn't end up with a white coat, but I did end up with depression and it's not so welcome +1 anxiety. But I didn't know. So to cope with these conditions, through the years, I used alcohol as a crutch to help me get through the day. That led to addiction. Now, while I'm struggling, I somehow survived college, met and got married to my best friend, and a few years later, boom, I'm about to become a dad. Realizing I was going to be responsible for raising a boy in this world was a wake-up call, and it catalyzed the journey that would change my life forever. Trust me, it got pretty dark during this time. Thankfully, I doubled down on therapy, leaned onto support from my crew, my family, my friends, and even did a stint in rehab. My son was only a few months old when I left, but I was ready to work. And with a picture of my boy, I went to rehab. I remembered why I was there, and I kept pushing forward. And guess what? I did it. I'm here today. My bucku is turning 3 soon, and I'm stronger, happier, sober, and ready to break the silence around mental health within the South Asian American community. Today, we're diving deep into stories, into conversations, all about flipping the script on mental health. No more hiding, no more hush-hush. Welcome to Breaking the Silence, the show that's all about pushing mental health into the spotlight. Hey guys, thank you for being here. I know you guys personally from very different situations, so I'll try to explain that as well. So first up, we have Ankur Verma. He's a psychotherapist from Chicago, and he also has an Instagram handle, Brown Man Therapy. Thanks for coming, man. Next up, we have Krishna, and he is one of our board members for South Asian Americans for Change, and he helps out with the operations team. Yash is here. He's a storyteller, and he has a really great comedy show called Hattie, and he's also a survivor of suicide. I'm so happy that you're here being so open and honest with us. Yeah, you know, it's rare to see men, at least South Asian men, even talk about like if they're sad or depressed, and you're out here talking about your entire story, which is commendable. I wanted to get some of my crew together to have an open and honest conversation about mental health. People always say, why don't men, just sit down and talk to each other, right? It's so solution-based, right? So I said, you know what? Let's just show what it looks like. So here with us today is Nimesh Patel, Emmy-nominated comedian, writer, model, and also my cousin. What up, dog?
How are you?
Chilling. Thank you for coming. I know, I'm a little nervous. We haven't really had a conversation like this ever. First off, I just want to say thanks for coming here. And why now? Why are you interested in mental health now? Why did you start going to therapy now? What happened that told you that this is the right time?
For me, it was just like, I can't pinpoint to a specific thing, but then also like when you were going through your darkest moments with alcoholism, there was definitely like, I was like, Samit's going through this. That in itself was like a huge toll.
Yeah.
Like I was like, not the stress of handling that, but then understanding what caused you to have it, and then reliving that in my own head, like, oh shit, I'm probably definitely traumatized in ways that you are. I've just been lucky enough to have it manifest in some other way.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, if I recognize the problem in you, then it's likely in me in some way or another, which means I should probably address it. Like I said earlier, it was really just I felt something that I wanted to talk to a therapist about. And I think it was like a budding anger thing. But I always felt some kind of like, it wasn't anger like a violent anger, but just like something off. And Amy, my wife, was just like, when I came home drunk, she's like, you gotta talk to somebody. I remember during pandemic, I was drinking a lot more than I would have been normally because I wasn't like working, I had nothing to do. And
Yeah,
like
a lot of us were, right?
Everyone just started drinking.
Yeah.
And I remember I took a bike ride. I got drunk at the cellar, and then I called an Uber. This is the middle of the pandemic. And there was traffic on the way home. I was like, traffic in New York? This is unbelievable. I will not allow this. And because there was no traffic for like 3 months.
Right.
Because no one
Because
on
the
the
pandemic,
road.
nobody's on the roads, yeah.
So I was heated, and I got out, and I hopped on a city bike, rode drunk, like brown out drunk through New York, over the bridge, back to my apartment in Brooklyn. And my wife was like, what's wrong with you? I was like, what do you mean? She's like, you're drunk, you rode a bike? I was like, don't tell me how to live. and then I like was angry, and it just came out at her, just like, not like yelling, but more like just muttering under my breath kind of thing. The next day, she's like, you need to talk to somebody. And I was like, I guess I do. Like, I've always had stand-up as an outlet for anything.
Yeah.
So like, I never had like processing feelings, whatever I was feeling subconsciously was probably emanating through stand-up. So I never really never felt the need to go talk to somebody in person, because I would either put it in a journal and it would turn into a joke about something. And that was it. And then once I realized that, oh, there's stuff I don't want to talk about on stage, or just don't know how to talk about, or don't find necessarily funny, I could talk to some white lady for an hour every 2 weeks and see what it's about.
Yeah, I mean, I think, when you don't get it out, I think Nimesh was talking about, his therapy being kind of comedy, getting it out through jokes, partially, and when we don't get it out in some form or another, then it has no choice but to go inward. And so we internalize it in a way that then comes out in maybe reckless behavior or unhealthy behavior, dysfunction of some sort, which can look a lot of different ways. It can look like anger, aggressiveness, violence even.
Yeah.
It can look like substance use or abuse. And it can even look like just kind of shutting down, imploding from within, right? And that, can lead to really harm of self in lots of different ways.
So Nimesh, what are your thoughts on mental health in the South Asian American community, and what do you think that we can do to help with this issue of not talking about our emotions?
It's this real subtle but kind of powerful difference in saying you need therapy. That need is what probably rubs a lot of people the wrong way. I don't need therapy. That's what people say. That's like, yeah. I don't think I need it necessarily. I want it though, because I know there's something that I could be getting help with. And outside of the monetary costs and the time costs, it doesn't really impact me.
Right.
I never walk away from therapy like, man, that shit sucked.
Yeah,
like,
no, I
I'm
can't
worse.
do, yeah.
I'm worse off. And so it's like, if you can seek it, why not get it?
Right.
The way I frame it on stage is like, if you could get a SAT tutor, would you get a SAT tutor?
Right.
Yeah, you do better on your SATs. Like, your mental health is like where your SATs come from. So it's just like
where that brain is. Yeah.
Yeah, so just to work on that, it's just part of your brain that you can work on, and that will have exponential impact on your life.
Yeah.
With Indians and South Asians and Asians in general, minorities at all, it's just like going to therapy feels like admitting defeat.
Right.
Right? Like, this country, we're supposed to survive, we're strong, we're supposed to not need any help, keep your head down, work really hard, and deal with whatever that means. And then instant you go to therapy, quote unquote, get help, it's like, oh shit, you needed help,
Yeah.
But
You failed at life.
yeah, but that stigma is so founded upon old ideas, and it also doesn't stand on its face, because everyone here, every immigrant here, every every minority here who is in any position to look down upon therapy has gotten help in a million different ways. You know, like the first Indian person here definitely called up another Indian person in the phone book. I was like, yo, I need help.
Yeah.
Like, help me get situated. I think you play that out with therapy, it's the same thing.
Why do South Asian men not talk about mental health? It's just something that they don't want to, speak to other people about.
To me personally, I think it's just hard to be vulnerable. You're taught to be strong, so by opening up about this, you're showing weakness, and that's not something we've ever been able to do growing up. We've not seen men show weakness, so then it's hard for me to do that with my friends or with anyone else.
The idea of being a man is, a parallel to just being strong, right? So if we think about talking about struggle or emotions as weakness, then it's just not being a man, right? And we're taught that we need to be men. And so I think it just goes along with the identity.
When guys hang out, it's very activity-based. You're usually playing a sport or watching a game or doing something. Rarely will you ever be like, let's just all hang out to talk about our feelings. It doesn't happen. My friends recently, though, just started doing this thing called sad boy hours.
Sad boy hours?
Yeah, they reserve a specific time when you're not hanging out doing anything else to just okay, this is the space, kind of like this, where you can unload all your feelings. I think it just goes back to that time thing. We're so solution oriented, so what are we doing rather than what are we feeling? Everything's about doing.
How has your relationship with family and work changed since therapy?
Well, I'm definitely just more open with my family, my mom, dad, Amy. I'm more conscious of how I could be even more open and connected, and then I get mad at myself for not being that.
Yeah.
And I'll excuse it. I'm like, I got shit to do. Even with you guys, it's just like ebb and flow, because I could easily just not talk to anybody for weeks.
Me too, yeah.
And just I got shit to do. I got to work. I hope everyone's okay. But I think that's just come to terms with that kind of seasonality of relationships and being okay with that. And then also making sure to check in and touch base and all that if I can, and hopefully that is enough of a symbol of caring.
Yeah.
Because that's all I can do it sometimes.
I mean, we text more often than we've ever texted now.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, I enjoy it. I have someone to talk to.
Right. For me, it's like my relationship with work and my relationship with myself is like an ever-evolving thing. And comedy and just the nature of my work is so personal. It's like the most important relationship I have is with myself. And so it's like, if I'm thinking about my mental health, it's solely to get better at the thing that I'm pursuing. Anything I'm doing is to get better at the thing I'm pursuing, which is probably good and bad. I should be pursuing my own betterment for myself first, and then everything else will get better around it. But it's really hard to dissect those two when it's comedy, specifically stand-up, because it's so personal and all that.
I don't think you need to separate to have a line in between, you know what I'm talking about?
The thing if I'm framing it as someone else, like a regular job, quote unquote, their work stress kind of ends with the work day sometimes, whereas mine is constant. And I'm just constantly thinking about myself and constantly thinking about other thoughts. But what therapy and what addressing my own mental health has helped is kind of slowly dividing those two things so that I can prioritize this me time. Therapists helped me understand, and Amy helped me understand you need to turn your brain off at some point. It needs to rest. You can't constantly be thinking about work.
Right.
And so that's been helpful in terms of just my own betterment.
Yeah.
But it's also helped me be better at work itself, right? A lot of it's just if you can identify the emotion you're feeling about something, then you could probably help. The emotion is the core of comedy. And if you can identify the emotion behind something, then you can make fun of that thing, and therefore being in tune with your emotions is beneficial. So that's also been very helpful.
That's dope. Yeah. No, I see benefits at work as well, just like emotional intelligence when you're just talking to someone.
Right.
It benefits that conversation and just like the whole relationship you build with that person, which then helps you work better with them in the long term.
Telling my parents I was going to therapy allowed them to talk to me about stuff that they would think I would bring up in therapy. Just like 3 weeks ago, we had talks that we should have had like 20
So wait,
years ago.
hold on. You started talking to your parents about mental health?
Oh, they know.
You never told me about this.
They know I go to therapy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, for sure.
I didn't know that.
You know, just like 3 weeks ago, we talked about stuff in therapy that I brought up with my parents, and they were like, "Oh yeah." I was like, "Oh shit, you've been thinking about this the whole time?" And they were so casual about all of it. I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. It was perfectly okay." I talked to my therapist about like underlying anger issues, right? And whether that stems from how we grew up or from others, like from some kind of subconscious anger of my parents' divorce, right? My biological parents' divorce. And I was like, is that causing how I feel about stuff?
So in terms of your biological father, how did you feel knowing that growing up, and did that impact you or your mental health, either as a child or even now that you think about it?
Why do I feel like he's gonna like pop out of the curtain? Is this a surprise?
Guess what? We have him here.
That'd be hilarious. Yeah, I mean, you know, Indian families don't talk about divorce because it's so stigmatized for whatever reason. That probably, you know, due to ancient times. People don't get divorced. You just live you just live unhappily.
And people still do that in our culture.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so as a kid, I was not aware of the emotions, right? You had to be a very smart kid to be aware of the emotions you're experiencing at the time. But if I'm looking back at the different moments of my life, knowing that information, I'm sure there was like identity issues, because I remember like having like 3 separate last names on papers.
Yeah.
You know, like his last name and then Shukla and then Patel, like all of that played out within like 2 or 3 years. So it was always like, who the fuck am I? But it never, and then kids would ask me like, what's your last name? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so that always, I'm sure that had some kind of impact on my psyche as a kid.
Yeah.
Looking back, I was definitely an angry kid in a lot of ways, but I can't discern if that was because of the anger of my biological father not being around.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I was ever conscious of that. I think it was just like, oh, this is how life is sometimes. Or if it was, you know, growing up in our house, the way we grew up, I'm sure that had an impact, right? And so it's hard to distill that.
Yeah.
And then I know as a kid, like a teenager, I was probably more angry that, you know, my dad was not around because he was working all the time, and so like my mom was going through her own shit.
Sanjay for.
Yeah. My mom was going through her own shit with that, and that would definitely impact my psyche too.
Yeah.
All the stressors kind of combined.
Came together.
The biological father of it all, like it never really, even to this day, it's just like, all right, like shit happens.
Right.
I can't measure the impact of something I don't know at all. But whatever negative energy impact that has had on me, I feel like I've kind of worn away.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it was easier for your parents to talk about this stuff because they knew you were in therapy?
I think,
or they've already like processed it for themselves and
I mean, it was certainly easier for them to bring it up. I think it was just like they just assumed that's what I would be talking about in therapy. And it was certainly a catalyst for them. And I think slowly but surely, like, we'll talk about more stuff. Parents learn from their kids as much as kids learn from their parents. And so for parents to be like, oh, our son is taking these steps to like try to be more open and communicating with us, we should probably do the same. And I've seen it in both my mom and dad, who are overall trying to be better communicators.
I know you're on tour right now, right? Tell us about your tour.
The tour is called Fast and Loose Tour. the Fast and Loose Tour, fastandloosetour.com for tickets. I'm all over the country. I'm doing like 37 cities from now until December. It's going to be wild. I think it's going to be a lot different than my last 2 hours. This one feels like a lot more pressure because the venues are a lot bigger, but a lot less pressure because I feel much better about myself as a comic.
Yeah.
For the whole family, you know. I've had like 60-year-old Indian dudes come out, and I've had 20-year-old Indian women come out and together, you know, like dad and daughter. I had a show in New Jersey at Stress Factory where a 55-year-old Indian dad and his like 30-year-old Indian daughter, and he admits to going to therapy.
The dad did.
The dad did. And I was like, that's crazy. I was like, well, why'd you go to therapy? He's like, because I'm stressed. I'm like, what? The guy, he said he was stressed. And that just gave me a lot of hope that maybe even these conversations will be, that I'm saying on stage in front of thousands of people, will slowly but surely like impact people. There's a lot of moments like that on the tour, but you know, and a lot of moments for, I think, the people that come to the show to really go home with some takeaway conversations. At the very least, they're like, oh, okay, I'm here with my parents and my dad's talking to me about therapy. That's crazy. Like that's one of the things I can hope for. All I can hope for is everyone has a good time.
Yeah.
But yeah, Fast and Loose Tour. I'll be everywhere.
Check them out. What is it? FindingNimesh.com.
Yes.
Something that I want to share to those that are watching is that it is possible. You know, let's stop talking about us, you know, wanting to have better relationships, right? Let's actually do it. And the reason why we're here today is to show that, you know, it is possible. It's pretty easy. This is the time to take that next step. And that next step is to just start talking about it.
So we've talked about a lot of powerful things today, and if you're thinking about going to therapy or asking for help in some way, just take the first step. You can share this link or talk to somebody in your life that has gone through a similar experience, and things get easier from there.
I think the hardest part about a conversation like this is just getting started. So I would say just find someone you love, and then just start talking.
You're at a point in your life, and there's going to be many points like this where you feel that you got to do it all by yourself. But there's so many things in our life that we do with the help of each other, and we're better for it. This, if anything, your brain, your emotions, your feelings is the most important thing, because it's going to help you do all those other things too. There's always someone there. Something I used to tell myself when I was going through the hell of it is, don't be afraid to fall. I promise you someone will catch you. There's a big world out there, over 7 billion people. Be patient, have faith. I promise someone will catch you.
We all have mental health. If you want to be better, stronger, faster in every facet of your life, it starts with here. No matter what you're going through, talk to somebody about it. Someone's gone through the same thing. You'll be better on the other end for it.
So we've had a very powerful conversation here today, and as you share this link, you can continue this conversation.
We went to Chan Palace for lunch. And
Shout out to Chan Palace.
And anytime, Parsippany, New Jersey, Chan Palace. If you want to be better, stronger, faster, it starts. We got to do it again. Right, that was a sneeze. We heard that on audio. Did you just sneeze? Bless you. Somebody. I thought I heard something.
Somebody say bless you.
Yeah.
You can have a powerful conversation as well.
Man, you just want to say as well.